so this video is about gin trap sizes and the types of animals you should catch for these. First thing is, the info I've got is from a book that was written in about 1890. They hadn't banned pole traps or pole trapping by then, but you could tell that it was kind of going out of fashion, and that there's techniques for using these against birds but not on poles anyway, so using them on the ground against birds. So some of these sizes was for birds as well as, you know, different animals. So what I've got here is, I did have a ruler a minute ago. Well, I know I've got a 4-inch trap and a 3-inch trap. So I'll tell you the kind of animals what you could have got with these, and then I'll tell you some others. So 3-inch trap, this would have been good for rats, mice, weasels and stoats. They recommended anything from 2.5 to 4 inches. So this is a 3-inch, so they would have even recommended one of these 4-inch ones. Now I believe the 2.5-inch ones would have been for holding it by the legs, and using something like this would have been used as a kill trap against rats, mice, weasels and stoats, because it would catch them higher up on the body rather than the leg. But something smaller than this, 2.5, would catch them by the legs. What else have I got? So 3-inch, they reckon that for crows, and instead of setting these on a pole, because like I said, they was going out of fashion, I think, you can definitely tell in the book that he didn't like the idea of pole trapping, thought it was cruel because you would just catch anything and anything and everything, indiscriminate. So using these on the ground in a slightly different way to catch crows and stuff. Oh, and here's a thing. If you look on this one, it's got 2 holes here and here, and that's for securing bait. There's another thing you could do. You could tie bait, and it would possibly make well, whatever animal you was after, put his head between to get it, and then you'd get it around the neck rather than the leg. So it was pretty clever. They thought of quite a lot of different ideas for these, not just using them as leg holds, but using them as killing traps as well. So 3-inch trap, like I said, rats, weasels. Now they did say that you could use a 3-inch trap for rabbits, and you could use a 4-inch trap for rabbits. They reckon you could use anything from 3.5 to 4-inch. Now the reason being, because there's quite a difference between those two, but the reason being they reckon you wanted a few different sizes was for the size of your rabbit hole. So you're putting them into the entrance of the rabbit hole. You may have a little narrow one, so you want to use a smaller trap. You may have a big wide rabbit hole, so you want to use a larger one. So 3.5 and 4 inches was good for rabbits, they reckon, and that's catching by the leg rather than anywhere else. So dogs, which is a bit of a weird one, but they reckon that you could have people's dogs coming onto your property killing animals and stuff, if you're a gamekeeper. So dogs, you wanted 5 to 6 inch jaws. So this is a 4-inch, so you wanted 5-inch. I've drawn a picture to kind of show you kind of roughly. That would kind of roughly be the size of a 5-inch. So you see it's a bit bigger, but 5 to 6 inch is what you want for dogs. Foxes, they reckon 4.5 to 5, so a little bit bigger than this is what they would what he recommended in the book for foxes. But I reckon 4 would probably do it, but he recommended 4.5 or 5. Now, another strange one, hawks. If you're gonna catch hawks, or if they did catch hawks, I mean with gin traps, they said 5-inch jaws was best. And like I said, these aren't catching them. They didn't catch them on poles. Well, you probably could have still caught them on poles, but the book I read, he was recommended using normal gin traps on the ground, bait them in different, so a 5-inch trap for hawks. And the other thing was, I think the reason he was recommending using gin traps, because rather than round pole traps, is because I think it was just cheaper to buy these and then use these multi-purpose for different things, rather than buying a load of pole traps specifically for birds, when he thought of ideas where you could catch birds in normal gin traps. So egg eating birds, which would be like crows, magpies and stuff like that, you wanted 3 inch or 4-inch traps. So either of these would have been good for, I suppose, jays, magpies, things like that. So either of these would have been good enough. So hopefully I'm not missing anything out. So that's as far as I got. So yeah, quite a few different, ways of doing it, and quite a lot of different sizes. But I reckon 3 and 4-inch would have probably been your ideal set, really. Or maybe a 3, 4 and a 5-inch trap. In the old days probably would have been able to get you most things. So as well as different sizes, they'd also come up with, or he had in the book, come up with quite a few different ideas for birds and padding the jaws. Now I'll do that in another video. I'll show you, but I'll actually do it to one of the traps and then kind of give you a description of how you would they would have set it in the old days. So remember, I don't need to say this to most people, but in case any new people are watching, this is purely for historic purposes, just something out of interest, something historical. It seemed to be very, very popular in the old days in the UK, these gin traps, but you can't use them. They're completely illegal. You're allowed to keep them as display pieces. And I wouldn't recommend it anyway, you know what I mean? But very interesting subject, things like this, and considering they're kind of banned now, makes it more interesting, really. Right, so I'll see if I can do, I definitely will do another video on padding the jaws for specifically pigeons. Any other info I'll find out, we could see about tying the bait on there. Lots of different methods. You can catch them by the leg. If you set it up in a certain way, you could make the animal put his head in, catch it. If you used one with higher jaws or round jaws, you could use them as like a body grip trap for catching the animal in the body. And they used to do things like have it set so your bait, sometimes have it set so the bait was on here, so the animal would step on to reach this part, and then it would come up and get it around the body. Yeah, so all sorts of weird different things. If you've got any questions or you've got any info yourself, let me know. And I think that's about it for now. But next one hopefully will be padding the jaws, or how they used to pad the jaws for pigeons. And one other weird thing. Really strange, the animals are used to regard as pests in the old days, and which now you would never ever dream of ever catching them. in one of the books I've got, it's got a whole section on catching what they regarded as a terrible, terrible pest. You know, the killer of game birds and taker of eggs, which was the hedgehog. It never actually said in the book what size they used to use, but a whole great big description on how to take hedgehogs with a gin trap. Really, really weird. And the same as hawks and birds of prey. It really was after those kingfishers they used to get. The only one which is not, which surprised me, but then I had to have a look into it. I suppose it depends what era you look at in books. Whereas the ones I got are quite old, you know, like late 1800s. There's no mention at all of squirrels. Now I know squirrels was introduced. I did have it written down. Squirrels was introduced. It might have been about. I think, possibly. I could be wrong, but it might have been about. I don't know if I've written it down, but either early 1900s or late 1800s. But I think it wasn't till years and years later that they was regarded as a pest. I think first of all they was put as like you know, kind of like fancy animals in places to run around, and then later on, like years, like 20-30 years later, it may have even been after the gin trap was banned that they realised that squirrels was a pest. But I mean, but looking through the books, it kind of surprised me that there was nothing about squirrels. But that's why, you know, because the different the times and, you know, when they was out, and, you know, but that did surprise me. So I'll see what other info I can find out, and then let you know and show you some stuff. So I reckon in the old days, if you had a 3, a 4 and a 5, you probably could have got most things in the UK with those. Right, anyway, hope that wasn't too boring or weird for you. Right, cheers for watching, and I'll see you later.